We're live right now. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I am your host here, Chantele Francis. Here today with me is my lovely co-host, Jonathan. Say hello to the audience, Jonathan.
Hello, everybody.
And so if it's your first time on Reality Realness, well then welcome. Make sure you subscribe right down below. We are all about reality television and all the gossip that goes along with it. So today, what we are talking about is Canada's Drag Race, episode 7, Miss Loose Jaw. Just to get us started, Jonathan, what is your involvement, we'll say, with Canada's Drag Race, and how do you feel about this episode on a whole?
So I know some people on it who work behind the scenes. So I heard about this, back end of last year when it was shooting. I do know a couple of the guest hosts, judges, or actually next week, what's coming up in episode 8. Yeah, so I have a little behind the scenes knowledge, but they're very tight-lipped. And just kind of a little hearsay and stuff like that. But I would have called it Miss Lockjaw pageant myself, but loose jaw's fine.
Why would you call it Lockjaw instead?
Well, I just remember my days in university hearing some stories.
I mean, I think it's a play on Moose Jaw.
Yeah, I know.
Fair, like, where is that? Moose Jaw, Manitoba? Is that where it is?
Right. Yeah, I think so.
Have you ever been to Moose Jaw?
I haven't been outside of Ontario in Canada. No, I've been to Quebec a couple times, but I've been to Europe. I've been to the States. But in Canada, I haven't really explored too much, unfortunately.
Wow, actually, that's interesting. Like when I was about 20 years old, I was promoting this magazine, and we did a cross Canada tour, and we promoted this magazine everywhere, and we had like a Bacardi party in every major city in Canada, and we went to all the different universities and stuff like that. So I've actually traveled all the way on like an RV. It was like I was living my real world dream at this moment, where we just threw a party in every major city in Canada, and then flew back from Vancouver. So I have actually been to every major city, and then I also work as a flight attendant. So I've been to Manitoba a little bit, but not Moose Jaw.
Right. I mean, I've enjoyed it, what I've seen, but at the same time, because I don't travel a lot, there's just been like draws to kind of where my family's from in the UK, or those big where we kind of grew up seeing, like LA, or especially with my industry that I'm in, or Vegas, or things like that you want to make sure that you hit if you're going anywhere, right? So Manitoba hasn't been one of them for me just yet, but I don't know.
I mean, what about Manitoba's up and coming music scene that they keep on talking about?
Never know. You never know. Although they shoot a lot, like it would be nice to kind of go to Vancouver and Calgary and like different places where productions shoot, and really kind of see what that's like for me anyway. So I should go.
Well, yes, eventually you'll go, but it is quite flat, gray, and plain. It is the plains for sure. So there's not that much there from my experience, but I've lived in Montreal, I've lived in Toronto, lived in Vancouver. Those cities are definitely, I've found them fun and interesting. So if you want to visit anywhere, those places I give thumbs up to. Now,
yeah, I love Montreal.
About this episode, what do you think on a whole?
Well, I'm a lemon follower, and someone who roots her on. So for me, any episode that Lemon's doing well, I'm like, let's go, let's do this. I enjoy this. But I think it's one of those ones where it really allowed people to show their strengths, or I mean also weaknesses, but what they say their strengths are, and it really allowed them to kind of explore more. It was different than just acting. It's different than kind of just the dancing or comedy. It was kind of a mix of many things, right? And so for me, it was perfect, and I think they should adapt that for the other versions as well.
Absolutely. Like, I definitely agree with you here. I felt, with some of these competitions, if they're not good at that thing, they're going to do poorly at the whatever they're what's the word I want? whatever the competition is that episode, you know what I mean? Like whatever the task that they have to do, whether it's like acting, whether it's selling something, whatever it is that they're doing, I find that, if they're not good at that task, then they do poorly and they get out. And so I've been actually trying to not petition, but like I'm asking for them to be able to show them their true selves and show what they do. And so I think that this talent show was a really good opportunity for them to show what they do as a drag queen, but through, these little characters that they were given. So I definitely thought it was a good.
Absolutely. Because I think they're expecting you to have like, the queens are expecting, oh, this is either a comedy, this is either a dance thing, this is either, they have what they're expecting. But to be fair, we haven't seen that yet, where they have pageant is a big start for not even just start, but it's like a big area of drag that people explore and live in, and where they come from, and especially with Brooklyn, that's her background as well. And I'm really surprised that other versions haven't really done a pageant like this before, because it really was, I thought it was great. And I thought, yeah.
Me too. But at the beginning of the episode, we have Boa writing, like she was the one, the eliminated queen from last week, and she wrote nice. That's all she wrote. Like what was going on with that? I didn't get it.
Yeah, I don't know that I got it either, but I miss Boa, and I was like, oh, I would have liked to have seen. I wish she had the arc where it was more than just the bodysuit. You know what I mean? And she was really able to kind of overcome where they've been kind of editing her and putting her in, as far as that, her hurdles. And I was hoping that we'd get there and she would kind of, be able to continue on longer. But yeah, I didn't get the message. Maybe it's, I don't know, wasn't clear, but it kind of goes with her personality. It's kind of like a whatever,
Just a little messy, but like unclear. So Elona has a lot of kind of disdain, we'll say, for Rita Vega, kind of calling her old and a senior citizen. Like, is that just an easy dig at Rita, or like, how old is she? She's like, what, younger than both of us?
She's younger than both of us. She's younger than both of us. I was like, you watch it right there. You watch it alone. I think it is, when someone's that young in their early 20s or whatnot, it's an easy thing to think like, ugh, you're in your mid 30s. Ugh, you're old. To me, it's like being in my mid to late 30s. It's a benefit that you have had that life experience to draw upon, you know what I mean? And younger people don't necessarily realize how much of a benefit that truly is. So, say she's old, it's a compliment, because she's doing better than you. So,
ooh, shots fired. It's true though. I mean, I actually, even though Ilona is a little bit of a brat, I do kind of like her though. I find that, I don't know, there's something, maybe it's because I like her aesthetic. I find that her imagination's interesting. Maybe that's what
Elona is very likable. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
It's funny though. I would normally don't like the catty queens or the whiny queens, but I don't mind her for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think it's because you don't like, with Elona, you don't see, you see it coming from a place of inexperience with not drag, but like just in life, of not being able to have had time to deal with these emotions over a period of like 10, 15, 20 years. So she comes from a place that is, and by the way, I call every queen a she. So there we go. I think Elona's a they, but Elona comes from a place that is just a young kind of perspective, and with that is kind of some of the brattiness and just not knowing how to deal with certain situations in the moment. But I think she's very honest and willing to put herself out there, and so I really appreciate that, and very likable, like I said.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, where it's kind of like her naivety gives her a pass on her, bad tactics, and a little bit of her honesty. She's pretty honest and real with what happens. It's not filtered. And so I think that we appreciate the candid representation of they.
Absolutely.
So, what I think you would probably like a lot was that the two people that were coming for Lemon last season were in the bottom two, being that Boa and Elona. So, what were you feeling vindicated for Lemon here?
Oh, and they said, right, it's coming from a place of jealousy. And I'm like, absolutely. I think I was having this conversation with you about something else, but it's like, when people often come for other people in that way, it's out of a place of insecurity and jealousy. And so they mentioned it on the show, and I was like, absolutely. They see that Lemon's kind of killing it and everything. And the big two for me viewing it were Lemon and Priyanka. And Priyanka has, like, dipped low in certain situations and has not rose to certain circumstances, where Lemon has been like consistent throughout and has really done well in everything. And if the worst you can throw at her is that you didn't like her double or Canadian tuxedo or whatever it was from before, I mean, it's like they're nitpicking just to make it seem like she has a possibility of not making it into the finals. But I mean, come on now. Come on.
I mean, she has to. I totally love it. Like, it's such a crush on Lemon. She is a boy and a girl. Is so cute.
Chris, real name Chris, I
Right?
think. Chris, real name
Actually,
Lemon's
no.
Chris, I think.
I mean, she looks like a Chris. She looks like a lot of very generic
Chris
names.
is here in Toronto and wants to act. So maybe I'll be seeing Chris sometime soon, is what the word on the street is. So
Now, do you only like Chris or Lemon as a performer, or is this maybe an opportunity to date for you? You're like, what?
who are you, Andrew? Lemon as a queen. Yes, that's great. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. So Bobo, Scarlett Bobo is feeling really insecure that she's kind of been safe, and being a little bit of sourpussy about it. Like, if it's like, okay, you've been safe, you know what? Be happy that you're safe because people are going home. Okay. And now figure out what you need to do to not be safe. Because they are still giving her critiques. Like, there's enough that's going on that she maybe could try just something a little bit different in order to see whether or not it has a good response,
Yeah, and it's a scary place to be in, because to me she's right on that level of, you can get in your head, and that can make everything fall apart so quickly. But you're doing well, you're doing well, and I understand that when you're like, hey, I'm doing good, it's happening, why am I not winning these things? And I do agree with Brooklyn that it's been like, maybe, the wrong place at the wrong time kind of a thing, where you've been in groups that have brought you down a little bit, or whatever the case may be. But I also don't think she's been at the top, because there have been such strong queens as well. So I mean, you're in the top several, but you haven't been the top, and that's why you haven't won necessarily. But just don't let it get in your head. Don't let it I really hope she doesn't overthink it and it all goes crashing down. I mean, I don't know.
You may overthink it, because this is what it seems as though people are trying to figure out what the judges want, and what the judges actually want is more of themselves. It's them being a just more personified version of Scarlett Bobo. They want to see more of their talent, more of their vulnerability, more of their, just of their itness. And she's, I feel like, is not going that extra mile, that extra step to showing more of herself, in my opinion.
The hard part too is that, well, first of all, there's been some clapback on the judges, and kind of, for me, rightfully so. Sorry, everyone I know that works in production and all the judges and stuff. I mean, I don't agree, and maybe it's how it's edited, but I just find that, like a Michelle Visage gives a much more motherly kind of criticism that allows them to, even if they're upset in the moment, allows them to like learn and grow from it. Whereas this criticism seems to be very harsh, very non-constructive. And as a casting director, if I'm in the room with someone, I don't tell someone what not to do. I tell someone what they could do instead. And that's something I learned very early on. So you don't, if I just constantly, if I was auditioning you and I constantly am saying, don't do this, don't do that, that's terrible, don't do that. I mean, we're all human. No one wants to hear that. But if you say, hey, instead of, what about doing this? Or how did you feel about, do you think that you can do whatever instead? That allows you to think about it. And so I'm just seeing this edit, and I mean they must have said it so I'm sure it's not just the edit, but it just seems so harsh that I don't know that it allows them to really kind of grow from it. So I'm glad that there's been some clapback on the judges, and I'm like, good. I would be totally against it. I'm like, that's on you, that's your kind of craziness. But just no, I'm like, yeah, speak up, especially with Jimbo. I'm like, speak up. It's not
Yeah,
fair.
no, I agree with you. I mean, so some of the times the judges are giving a little bit of a critique that they can use to do a little bit better. I definitely feel as though, with Scarlett Bobo in particular, that there is more of her that she can show. I think that she can give more, and then she's kind of like, I have nothing left to give. I'm like, really? Because you're not really giving, in my opinion, you're not really giving that much. Like, it's good, but it's not like pow, wow. And so I get that being that she's been safe because she hasn't wowed me really yet. With the judges and their critiques or their criticisms more so, like I 100% agree with you that I learned also from a very young age that, how to get people to do things better is not by telling them what they're doing wrong. It's telling them what they're doing well so that they will do more of what they're doing well. And so I've even had acting teachers that I can't take anymore because I'm like, oh, they just basically tell me like, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. I'm like, how can you tell? How do you know what's wrong? Like, you don't know what's right or wrong for the scene. You know, like what your idea of the scene could be and how you would like to see it go. And maybe you don't agree with my choice, but like that doesn't really, diminish what I bring into the table. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Or if you show someone how it's perceived and how you're perceiving it, it can show them that maybe that's not how they want to be perceived. So how do I, appeal to the masses rather than just doing it this way, which in my opinion might be right, but it's not, well received amongst the masses. So it is more of that I just haven't seen. And I'm again, someone who sits there and kind of watches people and judges them all day long. It's hard for me
That's why you
to.
guys don't judge us.
I judge hard. I judge so hard. No, no. But it's kind of hard for me to see them talk to people like that. And if if it's in the edit, then they're not doing you any favors. Because it's rough. It's not a good look. It's something that's not like controversial in a good way that will be something to talk about. It's like in a bad way where people are saying like recast the judges, this is terrible. Like I hear it over and over and over again on social media.
Definitely heard that. Has there been any response from especially Jeffrey, like of just about how well or poorly he's been received so far?
Nothing that I've heard. That must be, I'm sure it's very hard to hear. And I think even if they continued with Jeffrey Boyer Chapman, he would hopefully learn from those missteps, because to me it does seem like he comes across like he's trying to do a certain persona that is not genuine to him. I'm like, calm down, Laganja. It's like, just be true to who you are and people would like that. And you were on Drag Race US. It's like you were likable, and you've been on it several times, and it's just be that person. What are you trying to do? Like this whole like, I'm not feeling it.
Mom, I don't know what it is. I'm not really
I'm not
into
feeling
it.
it. And it needs to be a little bit more concise. Like I don't need all these little, Tracy being the squirrel friend appearing in like only 2 episodes so far. I'm like, I thought it was really cool when I would see, when they, I think introduced her in the beginning. I was like, oh, this is someone who's going to pop up all the time. I was like, great, fantastic. But then just like little snippets here and there, it's just so weird to me, and it doesn't feel great. And I also
Well,
just
I
don't.
think what happened with her is that she originally was going to be the host, and I think that they got a bit of backlash. It's like, who is she? What does she know about Drag Race? Like, why is she, representing basically the RuPaul of Canada's Drag Race? And so they probably like, okay, let's recast and like cast the three people. So Jeffrey, Brooklyn, and Stacey. And then they're like, they probably still had Tracy under contract. And so they're like, oh, well, we got her. We've already paid for her. So let's throw her in some
Yeah,
episodes. But I think
I
that
don't.
she was
Yeah,
demoted per se.
I don't know how those contracts worked, but generally speaking, you either like you'll know that. I mean, you wouldn't go from being in every episode to being only in a small handful. You would kind of know that it would be guaranteed a certain amount of episodes usually.
But yeah, I think that she got paid and then she got demoted.
Like they paid her for every episode, and then they were like, "No, thank you."
That's like,
That's a
because I feel like
big
it was
money risk
announced
there.
though. It was announced, I feel, that
I
she was going to
know
be.
that. That's why I thought it was like okay, it was going to be more than it was. I mean, I
Well,
don't
I
love this.
know that in
I don't
general,
love the
if
structure
I if I've signed a contract, like, and if they got a bigger star than me to come and play the role, but I've already signed the contract, they have to pay me for my days. Like they have to pay me for everything.
without
So
buyout. But yeah,
right, fine. But I think that
yeah.
she still got, maybe she was getting a lump sum for the whole thing instead of it
I
being an
think
episode.
I'm sure she was. I'm sure she was. Yeah, and you do have to pay then. Yeah.
And so she probably just got paid, and they're like, okay, well, we're not having you as a host anymore, but will you be like, we're going to use you in a different capacity. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it feels it. It feels like something's off, right? Like it feels like Sherry Pie's being edited out of the season. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Maybe it's. I mean,
This stuff is awesome.
let's remember Drag Race season 1. You know how that came about with the filter, with how everything was edited. Like, I mean, it's the birth of Canada's Drag Race. There's learning curves. There's things that these are, although it's like Drag Race in name, these are all these new people who are working on the show for the very first time. So I mean, you're gonna like live and learn and grow from it. So I think it's going really well. I just think there are some like cringeworthy moments. That in the structure itself that I would love to see changed. And I'm just like commit to. I mean, here's the thing: RuPaul is charismatic. RuPaul knows what he's doing. He's been, in front of cameras, for years and years and years and years and years. So I mean, it's hard to live up to that, even for like a Brooklyn or any of them. I mean,
Well, but
Stacey, I
it's
think is
not
very strong, and I would love to see
Brooklyn's
Stacey.
Drag Race.
So I said again.
It's not Brooklyn's Drag Race. You
No,
know what
it's
I mean?
not.
So it's a completely different thing. And so yeah, they can't actually live up to RuPaul's Drag Race because of the fact that it was RuPaul's baby. It's her creation. It was
Yeah.
her vision.
And then just before that, we have the UK one, which also had RuPaul on it and Michelle. So I'm like,
Did we not afford them? Is that what happened? Like, why didn't we get them as well?
I probably didn't want to do it, to be honest with you. I would think that the UK one was probably a mix of Michelle. Doesn't she live there? And she does a lot of stuff in the UK. She always appears on the UK. There's Glow Up season 2. She's a guest judge. It's on Netflix. I think it's new on Netflix. She's always a guest on all the UK stuff. I feel like she lives there for most of the year. But so she probably convinced them. They probably talked about it, or they probably discussed, and they're like, yeah, let's do it together. She lives there. He'll see his best friend. Why not? But with Canada's version, honestly, probably couldn't afford them. Let's be real on that one. We know our system doesn't have a lot of money, but and
also maybe like there was a creative control kind of element that maybe was like, maybe RuPaul would have wanted to be like 75% in control of like what the content was.
It was probably always the intention to like license the name itself, maybe pay for those little guest appearances that, have those intro videos, and that's it. And that was probably what was agreed upon during the, actual contract and negotiations of it all. Yeah.
I have to say, like, even though I'm finding that Priyanka has been falling in her greatness, we'll say. She did have a pretty funny line about Miss Scarlett Bobo being like, even under all that filler, you can still tell that she's pissed. And I'm like, oh my God, she's so pissed though.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, why do you do that to your face though? But why? But fillers like never really works out when I see people with filler. Um, but yeah, Priyanka's really funny. And I've probably said this to you off camera, but from my perspective, when I've seen Priyanka, and maybe it was just in the early days of Priyanka, um, I was not expecting a lot coming into Drag Race with her. And she has been a star to me. I mean, I don't think she's as I think she's naturally funny. And I think she gets in her head and she puts this pressure like, I have, this hosting that I used to do and in front of camera experience and Second City or whatever she's done, improv experience. And so I need to be great. And when you go into something and you're just like, I need to be great, it's never gonna be it's never gonna be great. It's just, I think she puts a lot of pressure on herself, and that's where the shortcomings come from.
Oh,
Because naturally she's hilarious. And I would like to see overall more of a I think it was this last episode where I was just like, where is there's no padding, there was just nothing, and it just looked like a boy body from afar, and it was very lackluster for me. So it didn't surprise me kind of her placement on top of how her performance came through. The other thing too is when you get angry and this, you can't, first of all, can we talk about the challenge or are we there yet? The maxi challenge?
sure, whatever.
I don't know how,
Let's
I don't know
go
how this
for
is structured, but I'm just going to be all over the place.
it.
So when the other one was just, the other one was described as like a Eeyore type of situation. And then she got like, just mad and angry and bratty.
Demeanor, yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all the queens, so we had Rita was mismatched, so she was a hopeless romantic.
Yeah. Well,
Jimbo
that's right.
was misbehavior, the town bicycle,
It was great.
which is kind of funny. Scarlett Bobo was misinformed, a kind of a know it almost. Lemon was misfits, a bit of a bratty pageant queen.
Perfect.
And Elona was miserable, kind of pouty and sad. And so Priyanka was
Yeah.
misdemeanor, the angry
Yeah.
hothead.
So with Elona, sorry, I was going back to Elona. The miserable Eeyore type of one. I was like, you're doing like this, you're missing the mark. This isn't the brief on who that character is. You're being like bratty and angry, which never comes off well. I mean, it never does. So the two people, it's not a coincidence that two people who are playing it kind of just mean and like whatever, were in the bottom, because no one wants to see that. You have to be really creative when you have that kind of negative. It's like saying like no in improv and just shutting something down completely. That's not how you do it. You know what I mean? So I just found it as soon as she was going there, I was like, ugh, this isn't going to go well. You're not doing the character brief. And then with Priyanka, when she was doing, it was very one note. It was very like, and I mean, I think she was thinking of other elements to it, but in the physicality, it came out a little bit, but in the actual interpretation and then just delivery, there wasn't any other elements other than that, just one note of kind of being upset or whatever. And it was just dead in the water. They both were like dead in the water to me in those
Oh, I know.
performances.
I mean,
And they were the trickier ones, though. Those were the two traps. I mean, if you know anything about kind of acting or improv or anything, those were your two traps that you kind of knew, unless they're very skilled at it, people were going to do bad at it.
100%. And always in acting class, you're talking about you got to get angry without getting mean. Like you have to still be likable even when you're angry, unless you're playing obviously like a super negative, whatever, different in acting stuff. But like, in this type of thing, you still want to be likable. You still want people to be on your side, even if you're, the angry sourpuss, and you want people to laugh. If people aren't laughing, it's very hard to enjoy a performance of someone just being kind of like curmudgeon-y and just like,
Yeah.
like if it's not funny, it's like, why are you being so sour? You know what I mean? And so
Yeah. I always say that anger is not in acting. It is outside of acting, but in acting, it's not a true emotion. And what I mean by that is that there's all these levels of other things, frustration. I mean, literally, so many, anything else depends on the situation that build up to anger. And it's in showing those other elements and those subcategories of anger that will allow you to kind of play into the funness of it and really kind of show you whether it's for dramatic or whether it's for, comedy like this is. It will allow you to really kind of show a side to it that's really appealing to many other people. If you go into it being like, I'm angry at everything, that's not the way to go. It's not something that resonates with people, because in acting, it's not a true emotion. You have to explain it. You have to kind of get underneath it and develop it with, why am I at this place? Because of what? Yeah.
No, exactly. So even, just to piggyback on that thought, if you're going to be angry, like if that's the brief is that she is an angry hothead. She needed to have created intention in her scenes. So like maybe like every time as somebody chuckles in the audience and you bark at them or what, I don't know, like if that would be working, but like if there's just a little bit of a reason as to why you were so angry. Could it be because you're hiding your embarrassment? So like I want to see that you're hiding your embarrassment and that's why you're angry about something. Like like you're saying, it's like you have to be able to complete the story with why you're angry, or is it just doesn't read as likable.
And she was doing the whole pregnancy thing, and I get that. And it was like, I understand that you had this one thought that you put into it, but when that only comes out in a physical manner and not with in your kind of emotions and what you're saying and everything else, that wasn't thought out at all, and it was very clear.
Yeah,
So
it's like,
I mean,
why are you mad?
yeah, and I appreciated Priyanka put a lot more into it than
Elona.
the Yona. Yeah, it was just that she didn't succeed in just kind of playing into it a little bit more. So but I definitely saw that she was trying, and I don't know how much time they have. I know they don't have a lot of time, and they have 5,000 things going on, so I'm sure it's very difficult. And like I said, those two to me were the trap. There are other ones like what Lemon got, which was one that almost you couldn't do wrong with. I thought Lemon also did a great job on her own, but I also felt like that was one where I'm like, oh, whoever gets this is going to do great, because there's so much you can do with it.
Not necessarily. I feel
I'm,
as
I'm not saying
though
I'm not saying you have to, but I'm saying it's like, if you can mess up and be in your head and do all these other things with it, but I'm just saying it lends itself to greatness, where the other ones are really difficult. And I don't know that you would even come out on top even if you did an amazing job with those other ones. I think you'd be like at safe at best. But sorry, I cut you off.
no, it's okay. Yeah, no, I think that Lemons was definitely, I mean, the other ones were definitely easier to portray because they are already going to be relatively likable characters. Um, so, well, in that regard, so they basically they're going to be putting on a pageant, and they have the different parts of the pageant. So they're going to have the talent portion, the swimsuit portion, and the interview portion, and they have these different misses that need to be assigned per person. So how do you think that about Rita choosing all the different misses, and would you like to see a different combination of different people doing different parts?
I'm sick of where people are like, oh, let me just put them in the spots that they want to be in, or yeah, I'm like, no, I want you to set them up for disaster. That's what I would do. I'm like, I would be like, you're gonna be terrible at this. This is your spot. I get to pick, and too bad. And so I just wish there was more gaming in that sense. Like, I would definitely put the people who I felt were at the top in positions that were very difficult. So, and you never really see that, but I encourage it for future seasons.
We'll definitely talk more about their performances. But so, did you notice this? Because I definitely noticed that Brooklyn 2 times while she was in the workroom mentioned herself being on RuPaul's Drag Race. So, did you notice that? And what do you think about Brooklyn at this point right now? Because for me, I loved her on RuPaul's Drag Race. I was obviously rooting for her on RuPaul's Drag Race, but I'm falling out of love with Brooklyn. And this, I don't know, when she comes into the workroom, I'm just kind of like eye roll.
again, it falls down to the comparison of like we're used to seeing RuPaul, or even just, they have such charismatic people. And now that they've stuck with like Carson Kressley, like there's so many of them, right? And we haven't found that. And so with Brooklyn, I thought Brooklyn was a great contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race. I thought Brooklyn was a great contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race.
For the people in the back.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would be interested in seeing her on a all-star season, which I'm sure is never going to happen now, but and see if she could kind of hold up to that, because I thought there was a lot of gimmicks in her season, being the Canadian queen and all these other things, but she's very polished and obviously a great dancer with that ballet background and stuff like that. So but she's a member of the House of Heights. She's not the mother. Maybe we need a mother. I don't know.
Ooh, shots fired. You're firing a lot of shots today, Jonathan.
I don't know these people. I don't care.
I know. So, okay, so we are also introduced to the judges. So we have Tracy Melcher, that we talked about a little bit before. We have Michelle Dewberry, and then we have Stefan Brobin, I guess his last name. I can't remember.
From Degrassi, yeah.
Fake, I know.
Original.
I think he went to my high school.
Really?
Yeah, he was obviously older than me, but I believe he went to Earl Haig. I do. But fun fact, you might enjoy this, is that for a while I frequented the Unicorn, and is that what it's called? Yeah, on Church. And I would go to Glitter Glam Bingo. And so Michelle Dewberry and Amanda Tension were the hosts of this dirty bingo that I've won so many vibrators from. And I've won.
Wait, can I come with you next time? I'm sure it's.
Let's go. Absolutely. I think it's Unicorn. Is that what it's called?
I don't care. I want to go to.
No, Pegasus.
Oh, Pegasus. Oh, yes. Which is a unicorn. Yeah. Yeah, let's go to drag bingo or something. Let's do it.
It's so fun. So it's on Tuesdays. They have like, sometimes you'll win like a round, you don't drink, but a round of shots for the table, but then every round has different things that are usually sexually oriented that you can win. And so obviously it's easy peasy fun. And
Sounds
think that if I'm not mistaken, when I won one time, that Michelle may have used a paddle and whacked my buttocks. So yes, I recognized her right away, and I was so like, I know her.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of great people on the show that like behind the scenes that really know the community and know how to reach out to all these people, which is great. And I can appreciate that. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about before, their guests, judges, hosts, whatever you want to call them, haven't been the most widely known, but at the same time, I'm like, it's only season 1, guys. Let them be on air. Let them kind of get the word out there. I know Drag Race has a big name behind it, but not Canada's Drag Race yet. So allow them to kind of do that, and then hopefully season 2 they won't even have to make those phone calls. The people will be calling them up being like, can I get on the show? And I'm sure there were people in season 1 who desperately wanted to, but at the same time I feel like they can get even bigger and better names, but they do have some great and there's other great people within the community that I would love to see on the show in future who aren't widely known, but have such a big impact. So yeah, I can't wait. And I'm glad that they brought her on.
Whether it's been renewed?
I haven't. So I can't imagine it not being, to be honest with you. I definitely think it's something that's going to be around for a while. And I'm sure that they can do it even with, everything shooting up and running and stuff like that, so that you can absolutely quarantine people and shoot it. Like there's full shows being shot right now. So again, it was shot at the end of last year, November, December, definitely into December. So I feel like we have some time, and unless anything crazy happens, they can
Also,
definitely shoot.
haven't heard of any auditions for that yet, actually. So maybe we'll be
No,
pushed frame.
yeah, I haven't heard anything at all, and I don't think there's been anything. So I think I think they're probably still awaiting a green light for a season 2 approval. But yeah, hopefully that comes soon, because I think they're doing a great job, and I'm very impressed. I was expecting not this, and up to this point, I think the best Canada's version of anything has been, I think for me personally, was Project Runway Canada, is what I've liked the best.
Oh, I know a girl that was on that.
Really?
So,
And
yeah.
and then we had Amazing Race Canada, which I'm like, after they started leaving Canada, because the first like season was like all within like 5 provinces, but once they started going like worldly with it, international, I was like, oh, this is great, and it's just as good as the American one to me. So and then now followed with, and there's some of the same people that are involved in both productions, but now followed with this, I was like, yeah, this is great, and I don't see any reason why they won't have a second season.
Yeah, especially since it aired during a time where a lot of people have been at home or have had a lot more free time. And so I'm sure that the ratings, they have to be decent. And the time slot that it was on just picks right up right after, or no, not right after, but it's in a good time spot where people are familiar with having Drag Race on in general. So yeah, I can't imagine it not coming back. And I really would love to see it come back. Like I would love to see it just keep on getting better and better and better, because I think I totally agree with you. It's definitely a great first season. So loving
Absolutely.
it so far.
And a lot of people, it's had a lot of attention. I've seen all the drag queens from, RuPaul's Drag
Yeah,
Race comments. Like, it's just everyone talks about it. So everyone should be very proud of themselves who have been on the show, no matter how much crap I'm going to give you or I have given you so far. But I think everyone's doing a really good job, and it's very entertaining.
So I just wrote down some key things about the performances. So you tell me what you think. So I put Elona, her talent was cringe. So Priyanka's interpretive dance was womp womp. I didn't write anything. I just put interpretive.
Yeah.
I put Jimbo is so sick. like Jimbo actually was the only queen that made and Lemon were the only queens that I actually laughed out loud for. So Jimbo was disgusting. Like I was like, oh my God.
Jimbo's a flat out star. And I hope Jimbo realizes this, because you're like, can we go back for one episode and just talk about that? And I'm sure you've talked about it, but that Canadian tuxedo, I'm like, that outfit alone to me should have won the whole show. But Jimbo's been a star this whole season, and I hope that the editing is just kind of underplaying that to make it not look obvious and who's in the finals. But yeah, I thought the performance was fantastic. It was so funny. It was so well thought out, and she was just being herself, and it shows, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And she brings us into her world. Like, it's just like, you're so sicko, and like how deep throat you're gonna go with this joke, but like she goes all the way, and she doesn't apologize for it. And so we are enjoying her, just like, how far are you gonna actually take this, Jimbo? Oh my God.
And it's Jimbo every time, and that's what everyone tells you. It's like, don't lose yourself in something. And it's the same with acting. It's like, you want to bring people are bringing you in the room to audition you because they want to see you as this person, not because they want to see this person and then everyone do that person. No, they want to see your interpretation of it. And Jimbo really does a great job at bringing herself to whatever the maxi challenge or mini challenge even is every single time. And that's so hard to do. And I mean, one of my favorites.
What makes him be doing well. And that's what I'm seeing, that I'm learning that Scarlett hasn't learned or doesn't understand, is that Jimbo always kind of comes through with his brand. He does surprise you, but in a way that it's still Jimbo, and that's what we really love, is seeing him sparkle. And that's why we're saying he's a star and she's a star, and magic what she does, and
and not to jump ahead, but even on the runway, it was like, Jimbo's willing to take the to be beat up a little bit about it, because when you're like, when they're like, I didn't see a silhouette, or it's too, whatever. She's like, I'm a clown. This is what you're gonna get. Exactly. You know,
Right?
you're not gonna be sent home being you. So just keep at it.
Exactly. I found I don't know if I'm just like off the mark here, but I didn't really understand Scarlett's character. I know that people like in her critique, they kind of felt as though it was really great and they really loved it, but I didn't feel as though she was misinformed. Like I didn't, it was supposed to be dumb. Like that's what was out. No, but like, was that
Yeah.
what she was trying
No,
to do?
no, it's funny that you were saying that, because I think when I was watching it, I don't like to rewind, especially on Crave, because it crashes my TV for some reason. But I was like, I need to rewind this to see what her full brief was, because I didn't see it come through and understand it fully. But not to say that she wasn't following it, because maybe I just didn't grasp certain elements of it. But it seemed like she was doing a good job with whatever she was committing to, and I would think that they would have called her out on it if it wasn't following some aspects of the brief itself. But yeah, it didn't seem like the title of misinformed or whatever was following kind of what she was doing.
I
So
didn't. She's kind of is talking like this,
I
and I
was
was like,
thinking at the same I was thinking at the same time. And then I was like, well, maybe we didn't see fully like what the full descriptions were. And maybe she was like, yeah, it's hard to say.
I wouldn't do Miss Know It almost. It would be more of like a brown noser goody two shoes kind of is what I was kind of picturing it to be, and being like, I know all the answers, but like all my answers are wrong. You know what I mean? I don't know. I totally just didn't get what she did in terms of what I understood, kind of,
Yeah,
and you
it's fair.
understood as well.
It's fair. I again sort of was thinking the exact same thing while watching it. So,
I
yeah,
think that maybe the judges also were thinking that, but she committed so fully that they just were like, maybe we just didn't understand the brief. Right?
maybe.
I mean, I just didn't get
I
it.
just always picture there being like a full sheet of like all this information, and we only hear like a sentence or two about it. So it's really hard to like fully assess it. But again, yeah, I thought the same thing. So,
So we
can I just say something? I feel like that's been Scarlett's journey so far. There's been times where she's been praised, and I'm like, I don't know that I get that. Or it was like, oh my god, that was so funny. Or you guys won. I was like, really? It
the
just
sissy one was so bad in my opinion. I
yeah.
hated it.
So I feel like I'm missing something. So maybe it's in the edit that they've decided to give her. Listen, we all know how strong the edits can be. And so it just doesn't add up. There's a disconnect between what we're seeing and feeling versus what they're saying about her on the show. And I'm like, why doesn't the edit match that? I don't. And maybe
And why
it's,
does she think that she's doing better than she actually is? Because like I
yeah,
think that
I mean, I'm like, is it a justification as to why she goes home before the finale? I'm like, is that what they're getting at?
I
I
mean
don't know.
it's getting slim pickings right now. Like yikes.
Yeah.
And so hold on. Oh, Lemon when she walked into the wall, like it was so
I
like, unexpected and so good.
can I say I've auditioned mimes before. Like I have. And she was great at it. Like I was very impressed. I'm like, you've definitely taken classes in that. And I was very impressed. I'm like, good job.
Not good, like another claim to fame of mine at this art school that I went to when I was super young. In grade 4, we had a whole year of mime, and so we
Is it
had the
hard?
yearbook and clowns. Sorry,
Is it hard? To me, it seems
not
really,
really. Like it's no, not like it's
maybe I'm
not
not
really.
coordinated enough.
Yeah, I could probably teach you some of the basics, like pulling a rope and wall and window, climb over the window.
Again,
Yeah, those.
I'm always going to go back to acting, but for me it's like when someone's in the room and you can envision exactly the story that they're telling without the story being there. And like I was seeing those walls, I was seeing everything that she was doing. So you're doing a great job when that's
It was
happening.
just so enjoyable, and it was just such a smart little choice. Like I don't. I think mimes are funny, and I don't know if I would have come up with that choice. Like, I thought it was just like unexpected,
Creative.
and it worked really well with her character. And as you're saying, the story was being able to be told of her little mime routine and walking to the wall as her character. Like, I thought that it was just really, really smart, and it
Yeah.
just made me like her
Yeah.
even more.
Well, I risked my TV crashing, and it did, by the way, and rewound it so I could watch it again.
Wow. That's big.
And you know how lazy I am, so
And so we also have Rita wrapping the gifts. I didn't really understand her interpretation of a hopeless romantic with this stuff.
yeah, I didn't get it, didn't like it, didn't understand her win last week. I don't know.
Me neither. That hair was terrible.
I just don't understand. I didn't understand that, the whole thing. So, as a person, great, like you, whatever. I think you're very mediocre in the competition. I think they're maybe trying not to make it Toronto's drag race. So they want to keep people who are from out of town in it more, perhaps. I don't know what the reason is. That's just a theory. But yeah, I wasn't, again, it could be edit, but I don't know. There's something I was missing there. It just didn't connect with me.
Me too. I mean, I felt that obviously I'm sitting at home on my couch watching these things, having my own opinions, but I feel as though she could have done a better job with being a hopeless romantic and telling a better story than whatever that gift wrapping thing was. I just was like, I don't know what's happening here. Why are you doing this? What does this have to do with you looking for love? Like, what? So yeah,
I was like,
she missed a great
what was her title? Mismatched?
mismatch. Yeah.
I was like, are you doing like stuff that doesn't go together? Like two different like wrapping papers? I was like trying to think of like how to interpret this. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So yeah, I was very confused.
And I feel like the judges didn't really mention that it didn't make any sense, but don't know what's happening there. So the
That's the
swimsuit
thing.
segment came, and I didn't really write down that much, but just in general, for both segments so far, Lemon has been padding, which I'm like, thank you, Lemon, because she could have won a couple of these competitions if she had just had given herself some shape. Like the
Yes.
Celine one,
Great.
it didn't wow anybody because it was too boxy. It didn't have
Boy
the
body.
the allure. It was boy body. And so it was really great to see her padding. And so that's the only thing I really wrote down for the bathing suit portion.
Priyanka, take notes, because you need to, you need to do that too. But Lemon, I mean, Lemon's like, I'm winning this, and I'm coming for it. I'm coming hard at it, and it's gonna happen. And I'm gonna take the notes of what they're telling me to do, and I'm gonna run with it. And is there anything else you can ask Lemon to do? Like, that's exactly what I want to see a queen do. It's like you're giving some criticism. You're able to hear what they're saying to you, and you're not letting it get to you, and you're absolutely taking those notes. So
I think one of the differences why maybe Lemon is able to adapt and listen to the criticism is that because she's so young, but she's been in school, she's been in art school, dance school, like she's learned that not to take everything don't not be offended by everything that a teacher or a mentor is saying to you, because these going to Alvin Ailey, like that's a school, like I'm sure that they've had some very different teachings and teachers, and how they come across with getting you to be your best is might be different. Some people might be challenging. So I think that she's learned how to absorb and translate even notes that are not so great, because she's gone to these kind of schools. And so some of the other queens are just that this is just something that they do, and so they don't know how to work in the arts, basically.
yeah.
And so I think that's why she's doing so much better, is that she knows how to be critiqued, even if it's not a good critique.
I think she's a little bit more well-rounded because of her foundation in this whole thing. And so and not to take away from the other queens, but at the same time I'm like, RuPaul's drag show, Canada's drag, or drag race, and Canada's drag race, it's a specific type of a competition that requires a specific type of queen. And so you need to have the ability to be well-rounded and to be great in everything. I mean, to be a successful queen outside of the show doesn't require that. Can you hear that outside? It's like
Yeah,
hail.
my raining or hailing here too. That's why I just was looking. I'm like,
So
whoa,
dark.
it
It's yeah, it's like it's crazy. But for the show specifically, you need to be well-rounded and be able to adapt and be able to take those critiques and roll with them instead of being like, no, this is what I do, you know. But whereas like Lemon's like, I'm gonna do this, I'm hearing what they're saying, great. Jimbo is another version of it, but who is so great at what they do that they're open to hearing it and you can tell, but at the same time very confident in who they are, and that I also appreciate. Take a stance in kind of who you are, and know when, listen, we're all human. No one, even people who are giving you advice or critiques or criticism, aren't right all the time. So just hear it, process it, and then determine what is best for you and what isn't. Where I think Lemon and Jimbo are really being successful in doing that, and it shows.
I definitely wrote down like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that Jeffrey let Jimbo deep throat that mic, and that Jimbo said, taste like strangers. That's so disgusting. Did you
That was like the best moment of the show for me, that episode. I was like, yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm like, the only thing that took away from that was like Jeffrey's persona of what he was doing, which then made me think of like, whenever you see like Ross Matthews or like any of them on RuPaul's Drag Race, they're not pretending to be other people even when they're partaking in whatever. They're just being themselves still. So that was a big, this whole how are you, like this whole thing that he was doing was just so off-putting. And anyway, I loved what Jimbo was doing. Jeffrey, stop doing it. Not
Scarlett,
the show, just stop doing this persona thing that you're doing.
Shtick. He's doing a weird shtick for
He's
sure.
doing a weird shtick, yeah.
So Scarlett really thought that she did a great job, and I didn't also want to do the rewind thing because I was using Cody, and Cody sometimes, if you decide to rewind back and forth, think it will crash. So I also did not rewind.
You have to pick and choose your battles.
But this one, I was like, I thought that Scarlett was close to bad. Like I was like, she wasn't good at all, in my opinion. And so the fact that she's like, oh my God, I killed this, I crushed this, like, oh my God, it was amazing. Like I was in the moment, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, thought I was living in the Twilight Zone at that moment. Cause I was like, I did not agree at all. Were you at this point in line with Scarlett, or were you just going
again
with
it goes back to, I thought she was fine. I thought she was doing something was working, but at the same time something wasn't. So for me she wasn't the worst. She was middle of the pack.
Yeah.
I definitely thought
low.
I definitely thought, I mean, how many are left?
6.
There
top
was
6, baby.
There was 6. So I you know, she wasn't top 2 and she wasn't bottom 2 for me. So she was the middle 2. And that's how I felt about it. I mean, again, there's always something that I'm feeling like I'm missing with her, and I don't know what it is. But she definitely felt like she committed to it and was doing something.
So we get to the mirror moments after, like that was basically them like rehearsing or doing the show, whatever. We didn't see the full complete thing yet. But we see like Scarlett. Wait, no, I'm lying. But anyways, we get to the mirror moment, and Scarlett and Elona are fighting here. What's going on here? Because I'm just kind of like, yes, Elona can be a little bit bratty, but like Scarlett, I don't know. It wasn't working for me. I didn't like the fight. I felt as though I was kind of more so on Elona's side a little bit here, and I thought I wouldn't be. So what do you think of this little fighteroo?
Well, definitely on her side as well for me. But at the same time, love the fights. Highly recommend them. The background players need to stop being like, ooh, it's a fight, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, stop commenting. That's what we say at home. You need to like play into it or just shut up and just let it happen. So if you're not stirring the pot, let the pot just, boil over on its own. Okay. I don't want to hear the little kind of like, backseat drivers over there just being like what a group of people at home would be saying. That's what kind of ruined that whole scene for me. Love the fight. I thought Scarlett was in her head, and it was just she was talking out of a place that wasn't. She was just saying stuff and just kind of like in a moment. And I loved how they were kind of on each other about it, because they are like sisters in that sense, where you just like
Maybe,
fight
yeah.
just over nothing and stupidness and just
They were
was
totally fighting over nothing. And yeah, it was Alona's definitely younger sister vibes to everybody. So
yeah.
I don't know. I like them better than Scarlett in this particular instance. I
Yeah.
was not Team Scarlett.
Elona was just kind
Um,
of naive and just saying what she wanted to say, but
oh yeah,
I
there was a little
loved
bit
it.
of
Glad it happened.
talk about Michelle Dewberry. So I know we kind of already mentioned that we were happy to see some of these queens that are trailblazers and will kind of pave the way for these newer queens. Did you know who Michelle Dewberry was before this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I've been living downtown for a few years now, so I have limited knowledge because I'm not really well versed in kind of everything that is drag, but it's something that I've enjoyed for many 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 years. But I yeah, I'm like at, I think, probably a lot of people. I haven't educated myself on the extent of the origins of a lot of things within Toronto, where I'm at, or even Canada. So it was nice kind of hearing more about it. It was nice having these people in it. Like I said, there are a few others that I'm looking forward to, hopefully, them bringing in future seasons. But it made me go and kind of
Dear Lord.
explore more of the history, and kind of look it up even more, because I'm like, yeah, I know the name, kind of know a little, like very little about it, but um not the full extent by any means.
So yeah, for me too. Like I told you that I used to see her on at the glitter glam drag bingo. But I was really surprised. I didn't know that she had such a history. Like her and Demand Attention, they're both like fun queens, and like I really enjoy their little comedy, kind of like they have a little shtick that they do when they are hosting this night. And so I just didn't know that she was such a big deal, like, or that she had such a legacy that she kind of came from. Her pedigree was so esteemed, and so I felt very happy that I recognized her, and I've seen her like 10 times in person, and it was nice to learn that there was more to her story than just hosting bingo on a Tuesday night. So it
Yeah.
felt really great to
And
see
I
that.
and I'm and I it's inclusive to not just be worried about the up and coming, or who's hot, who's not, or because it's like you need to like bring in some of the older crowd who really started a lot of this, or had such a influence on what we have now and stuff like that. So I think it's very important, and definitely glad to. And what a great way to kind of incorporate her into the show too. So I thought it was good.
She's so good. I thought she looked amazing. So the judges also looked amazing, I thought. I feel that the lucky break is that I feel like they get the best outfits. I love what the judges wear. Like they get to just push the envelope, and they get to be just, I don't know, just wear amazing stuff. And if I were ever to be a judge on that show, like that would be the most fun. That I would be like, it's like, let's push the envelope and have an amazing outfit. One thing that I was thinking about, and I wonder what you think of this idea, is if the judges had to come out in the brief. So whatever, like, so this was what, pageant perfection, if they would also bring their interpretation. Like obviously it's not going to be stuff that they have already, like they'll have a
Yeah.
stylist of some sort that
Like
could
someone
help them
would
with
do it
that.
for them. Yeah.
but I mean, I think it would be also interesting to see the judges do a really cool version of whatever the brief is. So what do you think about that?
I mean, at least Brooklyn, right? Because
Yeah.
like Brooklyn is a drag queen. So but then like what if someone like one ups Brooklyn's look? You're like, I don't know. Dangerous. I don't know. I like the idea. Yeah, I like the idea. We'll leave it at that.
I guess it's like I was so disappointed by the missed opportunity of last week's. Like I love denim on denim. It's so perfectly tacky, but nobody played up on the tuxedo portion of it really. And like I would have loved to see something a little bit more like high fashion, a little bit more, even if it was like a just tuxedo, like actual like a pantsuit or what, like I don't know. I just wanted them to play a little bit more within that idea. And I feel it so the judges would have maybe done something more along the lines that I would have been more excited to see.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know who was behind. I don't know who dresses them, but they do usually look really good. And I don't know. I'm excited for next. It's terrible, but I'm excited for next season already because I feel like again, once one season's under the belt, you have all these people who will like really want to kind of do more for the show in every aspect of it. And so yeah, I can't wait. Yeah.
Me too. So we have the guest judge Ali X. Are you familiar with her music?
Yeah. This is my face when they're like, hey, and our guest judge is Joe Blow, and everyone's like, oh my god, and I'm like, I don't know who they are. And so yeah, I mean, I feel like I've heard of Ali X. I feel like I've on the radio. I'm like, I know the name. I've never seen the person in my life. But I trust that there's somebody. Sure. I have not known most of the guests.
You knew Tom Green.
I know Tom Green. I know what's his face from Project Runway Canada, Bedell. Yeah, but and I forget who else has been on the show so far.
Alicia Cuthbert.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe I do know everybody. No.
You probably know Mary Walsh-ish.
Oh, of course I know Mary Walsh. Yeah. But like, it's still maybe I'm sitting there and I'm like, people aren't gonna know who they are because I know.
Shadowhunters. I didn't know who he was.
Who?
The guy from Shadowhunters.
Definitely didn't know who he was. But there's but that's also my job too, is when I when we have to think of people for shows or whatever, and you have to come up with like a guest star or something along those lines. There are people out there, many, where I'm like, oh, they're celebrity. And then yet I fully know that if you market them, like no one cares. And we're not going to pay that money for them because no one knows who they are. So when I'm seeing these people and I'm like, nobody knows who these people are. And so I wonder how, I don't know. I'm like, how are they approved? How are they? Some of them.
I mean, I'm sure that this is a publicist. Like they went to the different publicists in Canada.
I'm like, I want to know what that budget is.
Like, what do I need to book between now and the next shooting to be a guest judge? I need to like.
But listen, I know the people who are involved in the casting, and they're very knowledgeable and very aware of reality TV. But if you want to bring some people from non-reality TV, which this upcoming the next week is Amanda Brugel, who's a friend of mine. So she's from Handmaid's Tale, series regular on that. But I mean, if you need more help with that, I'm right here. That's what I do for a living. So yeah, I can definitely point you in the right direction, guys. But yeah, it's just you need to have a little bit more of a shock value, and maybe they did. And I've been there, done that. I've reached out to people before, and let me tell you, can I tell you a quick story? about
Sure.
Match Game. Let's talk about Match Game for a second. A little behind the
Ooh.
scenes, Canada's Match
Like,
Game.
I know Anna did a few episodes of that.
I'm probably not allowed talking about this, but I didn't sign anything, so I'm gonna do it anyway. But so they shot 5 episodes in one day. So how you would get the larger names like Rosie O'Donnell, who we did get but never appeared on the show, and I'll tell you why in a second, is because you're like, hey, it's 5 episodes you're shooting in one day. You come up here, and it's, for most people, it was a certain amount an episode. I don't know if I should say, but and then it was like in and around between 4 and 6,000, 5,000 episode. And then you have your marquee name, which you're allowed one, and it would be something like 50,000, let's say. Okay.
An
So
episode?
an episode, not an episode, but like for the
Yeah.
block of 5.
Episodes.
So instead of it being like $25,000 making in one day, which is great. I mean, it's literally like series lead in Canada, you'd make $25,000 an episode, but so it's 25 in one day, but you would make 50 for 5 episodes, but they all do shoot in one day. So Rosie O'Donnell did agree to it. And we had it all contracted out and it was done, and she was coming up here. Now she had something personal come up, and I'm not going to talk about that, but it was the last second thing and needed a replacement. And but it was kind of in and around the time of when there were some personal issues she was having, as well as health issues. So I feel like it was in the realm of that. That's what that came up. But she was willing to do it. So I'm like, if you get like Rosie O'Donnell to do Match Game in Canada, I mean, you absolutely can get, some big names who would want to do the American version of Drag Race, but but here in Canada, so Canada's version, right? So I don't know, and I wasn't part of those conversations. So I mean, maybe they did reach out to Celine Dion, and she was like, "I'm busy." I don't know, but I just feel like, no offense, Shadowhunters, I just feel like no one knows who that is. And yes, he is part of the community, but at the same time, people are going to drag you if you're not, if they're like, who's this? Especially with the Americans watching us and the world watching us and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think that I definitely agree that there are some bigger gets that they could have gotten, if that's a word. But what I think is what they did is they had a list of all the Canadian celebrities that they could even think of, or celebrities that they could think of,
I'm sure
and
of
they
it.
just went down the list and to who said yes. And yeah, I think that whoever's doing the casting or whatever, they would all put their pitches in on like the different people, and then they just start reaching out and seeing who's available.
Yeah,
And
you're never going to hear someone being like, "Well, we couldn't get other people, that's why." But I'm telling you, and because I have no, personal connection to the show myself, like I was involved in it, that's probably the reason. Because that's exactly how it works. You start with the lists, and then you shoot for the stars and see where it ends up, And so I don't know why everyone was so busy last November, December, but
But I
apparently they were.
also
But they
think
might.
they might have not have been sure if it was going to be a hit or if it's going to be well. So maybe they're saving their heavy hitters for season 2 when they know that they have the eyeballs. They kind of figure out the formula, like they know what they're working with. And so maybe they have reserved some of their, bigger celebrities for season 2 or beyond, now that they have a little bit of clout
And you'll have more of a budget. So
and more of a budget.
if you come back,
Yeah, I
oh,
think
there's my cat
it was
as
a
well.
trial and error. This was like let's see what happens here. We don't want to waste any super duper celebs here, just in case it's a flop.
I mean, I think if they could have afforded them and gotten them, they would have. So I don't know if it's them holding back. I think they would have. I think they would have booked whomever they could have, if it's within the budget and what they're available. But I do think that the cloud, it's something that will, with season 2, allow them to offer maybe even the same amount of money, where people will now start saying yes.
Mm-hmm. Or people would
So
be like, "Oh, I'm interested in this now. Like, hey, like, do you have an offer for me? What's
because
going on?"
we have so listen, and I personally know um, people who would love to be on the show, who are more namey than some of the people who were on there, or have been part of a show that was more namey, that would be like, they would have absolutely have said yes to it, but either weren't asked, or uh, you know it never followed through, and they never ended up on the show. But it's and I was really surprised while that was going on and I was hearing of this, because I'm like, absolutely, you should be on that show, absolutely. So when I heard Amanda was, and I did know Amanda was, back when, that she was going to be part of the show, I was like, oh, it makes sense to me, because although many people might not know who Amanda Brugel is, um, it's, she is someone who is on a lot of American shows and movies and things like that, and really kind of, stars shining bright over the last few years. So I can really see how, because even with Drag Race too, the American version, there's some people that they have on the show that I don't really know, and I don't even bother looking up. And then a year later or 2 years later, I'm rewatching it on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, oh my god, like, you know what I mean? Like, I bet a bunch of people don't even realize that Lizzo was on it back before she became, super super popular for the masses, and like things like that. So
Mhm.
sometimes getting people before they fully break out, is a good thing too, and that's why I understood why Amanda was going on it. But it's it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I'm definitely here for it, and I'm gonna do my best to, for one of these seasons, be a guest host. I love that. So it was pageant perfection was the theme of the, I guess, the runway here in the pageant. And so, what do you think of the dresses? So I just wrote down, just to jog our memory. So Elona had the lavender one, kind of with a chandelier thing over her shoulders. Lemon had kind of like that poofy yellow dress with the white little tap shoes and little cute white anklet socks. Rita, I loved Rita's dress. It was like quite glamorous. It had like beading, and it was kind of swirling, and it had a little bit of a trumpet bottom. Priyanka was a Bollywood dream, as she called it. Jimbo was kind of like a Marie Antoinette style, with a big kind of bulbous pink dress. And she said it was Marie Antoinette meets Barbie. And then Scarlett Bobo she said she was channeling her inner Dita Von Teese. So what do you think overall, or who stood out for you or didn't stand out for you? Like, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, so again, Lemon taking it to a toddlers and tiaras kind of a situation, and stepping, and like Stacey McKenzie said, so smart. It is. It's like making you stand out in such a unique, funny way that no one else is doing. I used to watch all the toddlers and tiaras, kind of, you know what I mean? So it's just it's hilarious, just to even, like, she didn't even have to do anything really, but it was just but even just how she was walking was so on point that I'm like, absolutely, like even the crossing the legs over like one by one kind of a thing like that. I was just like, exactly. I mean, it was just so funny and such a nod to that, the pageant world for young children, that I thought it was hilarious. And so again, that's thinking outside of the box and really putting the work into it. Um, I thought that I feel like most looked great, but at the same time, there's, you know, you need to take it to another level and really stand out sometimes. What was Priyanka wearing? I feel like
Bollywood dream. I don't remember what the colors were,
it
but it was
was
kind of
like,
a
I just
sorry.
remember it was like boy body is what I was thinking. I was like, boy body, boy body. And why am I seeing boy body every single time? I mean, I have a we all have our preferences, I'm sure, for what we won't like to see on our queens. I like a fully kind of, you know, I like a Patrick Swayze, not a John Leguizamo. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm talking about here? Where, have you not watched Tu Wong Fu? Thanks for everything. Um,
Oh, right. Yes, yes, yes. So
and
I was like, Wesley
and
Snipes?
so
What?
so Patrick Swayze as Wesley Snipes was as well. were fully realized queens, where the padding, the wigs, like everything was what you typically think of. And John Leguizamo was kind of like in the stairwell, kind of not doing so great, kind of new to this, kind of, whatever. And it was it's I just like a fully realized queen. So and maybe more traditional in my personal taste with it. So
I would agree with you here with Priyanka. From what I've been finding, and I don't know if it's just because overall maybe other people are rising up and she hasn't continued to be rising, but I don't actually enjoy her makeup that much. I don't think that she paints in a way that makes her look gorgeous and glamorous, in my
yeah.
opinion. Like, obviously sometimes people do better or worse paint jobs, like, it's just the luck of the draw that day, if you have a steady hand or not, whatnot. But I just don't find that she looks pretty. And that, I think, really takes away from the dream that she's trying to have, is that I don't think that she looks like, wow, gorgeous,
Is,
stunning. Like,
is
I
she
never think
tall? Is she tall?
seems tall.
I
Like
have
five
no
two.
idea, but it's like she walks around like a tall person who doesn't like their height.
Yeah, yeah.
And
She's kind of
and it's weird for me. And they even commented on it, and was it this episode or last episode, where they were like, kind of like, hold yourself up like that. And she does this kind of like hunchback, lack of confidence kind of a walk. And when you're lanky or seemingly lanky, and then you don't have you're not padded, and you just kind of like, it looks like a boy with a wig. And and then when the performance falls short, because that's what you have going for you, is the performance and your likability. When that falls short, it's like, then what do you have? And that's why she ends up, you know yo-yoing between like a top performer and a bottom performer. So
Yes, I'm getting worried for her. But okay, another thing, I don't know how you felt here, but I enjoyed Jimbo's look. I like that big, like, voluminous, like, ball gown thing that he was doing, or she was
yeah,
doing.
was it
I actually enjoyed it.
was it glamorous in a traditional sense? No, and I agree with the judges, but um it in if you put that in like, here's the thing. We always talk about like tones of shows, and every show has a different tone to it, like in, when I'm casting something. And it was just, her tone was very different. If I saw that in like Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix, I'd been like, that's a glam look, absolutely. But in this because she's more clownish and whatever, I'm like, yeah, she doesn't have that silhouette. Yeah, she has a bunch of tulle or whatever it was. And it's just, and it's these like round curls that are just there. But I mean, it's very Jimbo glam. It's not, you've seen Jimbo in so many different looks to this point. That's not what she normally does. So this is like what her glam version of her. So I didn't like that they kind of were coming at her for that element of it, because I liked it. But was it like, oh wow, that's glamorous, that's so gorgeous? No, but that's not, Jimbo's not going to give you that.
Barbie element of it is what I kind of drew to. And I can picture if Jimbo was standing in a box, you know what I mean? Like, as a Barbie with her little crown, and like, I think she's wearing a crown, but like, in this the bulbous skirt and that color and that satin in it. Like, I felt that if it was stationary and you weren't moving anywhere, that it would look more glamorous. I think that because she was walking around, I think that took away from the fantasy of it being glamorous. Personally, it didn't
Yeah,
walk very well.
yeah,
But
I agree. I agree. If
in a
you had
photo,
like,
that would look so glamorous in a photo.
yeah, especially like, with that kind of idea in mind too. It's just, it's again, I just think it's their, I think they're probably told to like, I wonder how this shoots, and I'm not sure, but I think they're probably told to like give critiques no matter what, even if you think it's perfect, and also, praise, and then let the editors kind of pick and choose what they want to use. So I think some of them are reaches for a reason, because they're like, oh, I really like this, I don't really know, and then they'll say whatever. So, and if that's the case, they're not allowed talking about it. and they can't defend themselves. So everyone's going real hard on all of them right now. But if they're contracted to say nice things and negative things, regardless of what they think, and then the editing only shows one way, that is not their fault, people. You have to understand, you all know how TV works. And so, and because the show's ongoing and they're all under contract, they can't talk about it. So I feel like it's more like, you're like, what? Why did you say that? But I think, you know,
There's
they were
more going
probably,
on than
they were
negative.
forced to say something negative, and that's what came out. But, you know.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely thought that Scarlett looked the best that I've ever seen her look. I definitely loved her face and her hair. I love the dress as well. I
Very,
love
very much
the
so. Very like Bond, James Bond, glamorous kind of a, you know.
I definitely thought it was gorgeous. I was thinking in my head, I'm like, are they going to give Scarlett the win? Her act sucked, and
I was worried too. I was worried.
I was so worried. Before we get to like who they did we talk about everybody? Oh, Elona, like I kind of liked where Elona was going with her outfit, but I think that she needed to. I agree with Stacey, like maybe have those jewels carry all the way down the outfit or something. It just seemed a little bit incomplete, but I didn't mind it that much.
Didn't mind it at all. Definitely could see how she could have made it better. Alona's like my little Beetlejuice or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. There's just something I really like. Um, and but at the same time, I mean, you kind of know when someone's time's up on the show, and in comparison to everyone else, it's just not as fully realized, you know, her moment. But I definitely think, and I think it was her. You know how some people go on Drag Race and then they're like, wow, they really should have went on a couple years from now. They came on too early, perhaps. I think for her, I think she was on at the right time. I don't think that was the case. But at the same time, I still would love to see Elona in a couple years and see how her drag has
Evolved.
exactly. I mean, I think it can be amazing, and definitely someone who could be in an all-stars season for sure.
For 100%, and for the most part, all of her looks, I've really enjoyed her looks. I like seeing her vision. I like seeing what her interpretation of the briefs are. I do find that they are very interesting. So I would most definitely love to see them in a future season. 100%, no, like
Yeah.
undoubtedly. So yeah, the judges dragged Bobo. They thought that Jimbo, the judges dragged Jimbo, and they thought that Scarlett Bobo looked the best. I was getting really worried when they were going to announce the winner, but thank goodness our favorite, the only person left on my team, is Lemon, gets the win. And I think it was well deserved. I thought that both her acts in the pageant as well as her runway, they were all perfect in my opinion. Like obviously there could be improvements, whatever, but like they're just great.
Yeah,
Like
this is like Lemons to lose right now, and I know I said that about Gigi at the like for first quarter of last season's, but you know, we're now coming down to it, and it's still Lemons to lose, especially with Priyanka kind of back and forth and kind of going all over the place. But to me, it's like the top three in the whole competition overall are Lemon, Priyanka, and Jimbo. And I would be really upset if those three don't make it until the end.
Well, the bottom two this week was Priyanka and Elona, and I wasn't really surprised there. So they're going to be singing now to Ali X's song "Hello." Had you heard this song before?
I had not heard this song. No.
Me neither. I had neither. I was hoping that it would have been a song and I'd be like, oh my God, okay, that's who she is. Like, oh, I didn't know who sang that. Or I wanted it to be something like that.
I was wondering if they were like trying to tie it in with the release. I'm like, oh, is this song going to be like released when the show comes out? So it's still don't know. I haven't heard it, but I'm not listening to the radio as much as I used to these days. So maybe it was, but I'm not quite sure. Or maybe it's a classic song of hers. I don't really know.
Me neither. But I am going to look her up and just to see if I can get a little bit more familiar with her. So if anything, she's going to have some more people viewing her Instagram or
Oh,
something.
absolutely. I mean, great for Alex. Yeah.
So what did you think of the two lip syncs? I don't know if you caught this, but during the fight that or there's a certain part of the workroom scenes where I could see like Ilona in the back, like practicing like her singing that song, which was really, I thought it was really funny because I just see her in the background doing that. What do you think though overall of the lip sync?
Well, Alona, now having seen her a couple times in the bottom, needs to do more than just, you know, just the standing there with the the top half performing only. You can move around. You can do some things. I mean, listen, I can't do the splits either. You don't need to do a death drop or a cartwheel, but I definitely, you need to show your passion. You need to show what you're willing to do. If you need to bust a seam in that dress, then go for it. Like if you need to roll around on the ground, then go for it. You've seen.
Just don't look desperate.
Don't look. Yeah, don't do everything because we've
Like I thought that
seen queens do
Kiara
that.
went home because she started looking desperate.
Well,
But
yeah, yeah, everything under the sun. There is but you need to do more than just kind of stand there. You can always tell with the edit as to who they're favoring because all the like fantastic parts of the song they always like cut to the winner of it. So it's always really obvious to me, but that's kind of like the structure of the show. Um, and then
I
like
would have to say though that I definitely laughed at Priyanka's some of her parts in that lip sync, and I didn't necessarily feel as though she did the greatest lip sync comparatively. Like it was okay, but she did land a few moments where I laughed out loud that made it just she made me have an emotion, she made me feel something, she made me laugh, and that's why I think that she personally got the win there.
oh,
Did you agree?
absolutely, yeah. She
About
she
it?
she goes for it, and she knows like this isn't a time to mess around, and I think that she's able to get out of her head and be like, this is what I need to do because I'm not going home. um I mean, was it in her favor that she was going to stay anyway? Absolutely. Were they going to really send her home? She would have had to have pulled
Last
a
person of color.
she would have had to like stay there and do absolutely nothing. So I mean, they also had like Alona's First Nations, Indigenous, what is she's something, right? She's
Fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
And and then is everyone else white on the show?
Hmm.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Other than week two, every week was a person of color that left. And then Boa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, so there's 5 left now, and yeah, Priyanka's definitely deserved to win it. She deserves to be there and deserves to, my opinion, be in the finals. Are they doing a final four? I have no idea. Do we
I
know?
don't know anything
Let's
about the format.
assume it. Let's assume it's a final four. So who do you think who do you think's in real danger this week out of the 5 that are left?
Scarlett, because if she hasn't not been super high, like yes, this week she's was number 2, we'll say, but if she was third, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I didn't think that she was that great, and I think that her being safe is now going to be being the bottom soon. So I feel like Scarlett is pretty close. Depending on what the challenge is, Priyanka is hovering there a little bit as to not being able to bring the funny in the
No
challenge.
way. They're keeping her till the end for
Oh, she's gonna win
sure.
at the end, but she
Probably
might
win
have
the
another
whole
scare.
thing.
You think she's gonna win the whole thing?
Honestly, probably. Yeah, I want it to be Lemon, but probably.
I obviously I want it to be Lemon as well. I think I love Priyanka as a human being, but I've found that Lemon has just done better in my opinion overall in the competition. I don't think that they can let that go unnoticed.
I mean, Jada Essence Hall. That's all I have to say about that. Gigi Good did so much better than Jada, and it was like it was just like, anyway.
I agree with that too. And people came for me when I had that opinion. Like, what do you mean? Like, Jada did that all in her living room, and she just like she killed it. She nailed it. I'm like, but like, I like the dream. I like the story. I like I like more than just the dance performance in the living room.
I wonder if social media is going to have an influence with RuPaul's Drag Race. It's all about those last few weeks and social media and who they really want to kind of win. Gigi didn't win in my opinion because it was like your old news, and then it went Crystal, and then it went like sharp turn at the end to like Jada was the favorite, and Jada won, and I feel like that's what happens more times than it doesn't. So I wonder if I have no idea if they've already filmed the finale or if they're doing
Do
a
you think that
live
they're going to do
thing.
the same thing as they do, if I'm not mistaken, in RuPaul's Drag Race, where they film the ending of all three of them, like each queen getting the win? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I have a feeling
Do
that
that so then they can choose the narrative that they want, by which the winner that they want to have to actually have.
I feel that I haven't heard of them shooting anything, and it's almost down to it now. So I feel like they've definitely shot everything they need to shoot, and it's Canada. So I feel like they definitely would have done that the end of last year. But I absolutely would believe that they would have shot multiple scenarios so that they can pick the real one, or like
Depending on
whatever,
the
depending on
feedback.
what the feedback is. Absolutely. So I feel like they shot everything in December, and they have, and I do think Scarlett's in danger. I think the edit so far has put her in a situation where she just misses out on the end. That scares me for her. Rita Baga is like a safe having the final four kind of a situation, and I feel like they've tried to show positive elements almost to justify why she would be in a final four.
And
Um,
yeah, especially her being from Montreal, being the only Montreal queen or Quebec queen that's still
yeah,
represented in the competition. I
she's
think that
getting,
she's going to take that spot.
yeah, she's getting that edit to me as well. The other three, I don't think they would even dare. Like I think Lemon, Priyanka, even though Priyanka has this arc of going back and forth, but I think Lemon, Priyanka, and Jimbo 100% are in the finals. If they have a final four, I think it will be rounded out with Rita Baga. And they will, this next episode will show you Scarlett Bobo kind of getting in her head and missing out on the finale, is my prediction based on the
It's,
edit.
I mean, like what you're saying can ring true. The only reason I'm kind of bringing up Priyanka is because of the fact that she's just not been doing so well up until now. But I do agree with you that most likely Scarlett Bobo will be edged out of the finale or the final four. So
Yeah.
heard it here, folks, first. I can't even say that.
And I would love to actually see Scarlett over Rita myself personally.
I
Um,
agree.
she's been more entertaining, and I've just enjoyed watching her a lot more. So, and I like Rita Baga. It's just Scarlett
She's more
beats her out in
interesting.
my.
I find I would love to see a little bit more of her clown stuff. Like, why didn't she bring more clown? They love the bongos that she played in her as her talent, but like I wish there was more clown that she brought to this comp. I know she keeps on like blowing smoke out of her mouth and stuff like that. Like, cool, but like I want.
Yeah, a little bit more of a a street performer kind of a vibe to it or
Whatever
something.
she
But
does, you know what I mean? Like I've only seen her perform
yeah.
once. It was
I wonder
kind of like
because of like, I don't know, because Jimbo always talks about being a clown too, and I wonder if they were like, there's two clowns this season. You can't both just bring the clown, or I don't know. I don't know. It's there's a lot of elements to her though. She can be very polished. She can be very a lot of things. So I don't know. I would hate to see her go this next episode, but I feel like that's what's gonna happen.
yeah, safe now means bottom. Basically.
Yeah.
So do you have anything else you want to share about this episode or how you feeling? Good?
This particular episode, no. But I can't wait to see how Amanda does next week. And if anyone drags her, I'll come for you personally.
Yeah, come and hang out with us tomorrow next week and we'll talk about your girl and your friend on next
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Amanda's always been, I mean, you know what? No, I'm not gonna say anything. I'll save it. I'll save it for later.
Save it,
I will.
don't leave the gold. It's like, save it for next week.
Yes.
So if people were looking for you and wanted to find you, where would they find you on social media?
Instagram, Jonathan Oliveira 1983. You'll see a lot of him on there as well.
Aww.
And yeah.
And for me, you can find me at Fran on Instagram or at Reality Realness with 3 S's. If you are a Twitter type folk, you can find me at Shan___Fran or at Reality Realness, but with 3 S's, but no E. I know it's very confusing, but I just didn't have enough characters on Twitter to have Reality Realness with 3 S's. So I didn't want it to be more confusing. Anyways, you get the drill. You can find me. I'm pretty findable. So make sure you subscribe right down below. Please help us out. We love talking about reality TV. So the more people that subscribe, the more people that will see it, the more, we'll be able to do
the looser lips I'll have. Maybe I'll give off some information. You never know.
Information. Please like this episode and ring that bell so every time we go live or we have a new episode popping up, you'll be notified. So that's all I got for you guys today. We'll say bye-bye.
Yeah.